I am not Protestant anymore, but let's go back 4 years ago when I was 18, going through a very depressing and empty time in my life that led me to questioning and seeking religion. I bought a Quran, read the Quran twice. I was going to psychics, doing tarot card, buying crystals, meditating with them. But I had a dream happen to me that led me back to Christianity. Now, I didn't even want to look at Christianity again because I saw all these denominations. And at 18, I knew that there could only be one truth. But yet there's thousands of denominations and they all have differing opinions from the other one. You know, this one believes this one believes that, this one believes that. There's all this division, all this confusion. Can't only one of them be right? So then I said, you know what? I'm just going to be a non-denominational Christian. I'm just going to focus on Jesus. I'm not going to get into the doctrine and dogma of things. And for 3 years of my life, that's where my walk was. But I never had a more intimate relationship with Jesus while going to Protestant churches. Sure, at times I would go to the service. I felt really motivated, hearing the sermon. The music, I was never a big fan of it, but I'll hear the sermon and it would hype me up. But then that motivation, that enthusiasm would diminish after a few days after going to church. And then the temptation would come, the flesh would get the best of me, and I never felt this deep relationship with Jesus while being a Protestant. And now I'm studying Orthodoxy because I'm studying the church history, right? I don't think Jesus founded the church with 20,000 denominations in mind, right? And some of these denominations, man, I don't even think they're Christian. I think it's a completely different God than what a lot of the other Protestants practice and believe in. Okay? The thing is with Orthodoxy, they haven't added any new dogma or doctrine since the church was founded. And there's all these new denominations, man. In the 1800s, JWs, Mormons. The Mormons say that God was once a human. You can become a God. The JWs say Jesus was created. They don't even think he's eternal. You have oneness Pentecostals that think God is one person with three different modes. You have free will people. You have Calvinists. Okay? If you think God is the God of the Calvinist or the God of the free will is going to have different characteristics than the Calvinist God. So we're pushing different territory of who God even is. The personality, the characteristics, the attributes of God are way different depending on what you believe in. And regarding the oneness Pentecostals or the JWs or the Mormons or whatever else I haven't mentioned, right? When they take away that deity and that personhood and that eternal divineness of Christ, all of this wouldn't even be a problem if we could just look at the councils, right? If we go back to the Council of Nicaea in 367, and we see them talk about the divinity of God, God being three persons but one divine essence, then we would understand, okay, this conversation has already been had. But you mean to tell me 1,600 years later, some guy, Joseph Smith, I just got a new revelation. Then they add to the Bible, then they add their own books. And then the JWs, right, they completely manipulate the Bible, like in John 1, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God. They say, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was a God. Huh? Was a God? No, was God. How do you add a to that? Complete manipulation, complete perversion. The heresy is running rampant in the U.S., and that is why I believe so many people are falling away from the faith, because Protestantism only can get you so far with God, because there's incompleteness among these denominations. And man, so many Protestants are the nicest people. They love God. They love Christ. But ignorantly, because of this incompleteness, you eventually hit a wall with your relationship with God. And that's why so many people, man, they're on fire at first, and then they lose that flame. Like for me, man, when I came to Christ at 19, for a year and a half of my life, I was on fire, bro. God had delivered me from a 10-year-long lust addiction. I was clean 7 months, but this ego and pride came back up, made me fall. Pride comes before the destruction. But God had healed me from my lust, bro, supernaturally. I couldn't even go 2 weeks without jacking off. And I went 7 months. For 6.5 of those months, I had little to no temptation. I stopped cussing. I stopped listening to worldly music. Like, God was really in my life, bro. I was just on fire reading my Bible 2-3 hours a day. I was just consuming so much Christian media, watching videos, reading books, praying to God, witnessing to people. Like, I just felt amazing. But then that fire just suddenly burned out. Well, kind of slowly, honestly. But eventually, man, I was just like, damn, I'm back feeling empty again. And I would talk to people, I'll talk to friends, I'll talk to family, I'll talk to pastors. I would just, seek and seek. I'm like, dang, I don't want to feel empty again. When I was 18, I felt very empty. Now I'm 20, 21, I feel very empty again. Not as empty, but very empty. And they would always tell me, oh, read this book, watch this sermon, watch this video, do this, go to therapy, whatever it may be. I went to therapy. It helped a little bit. It only helped to an extent, right? Listened to the sermons, bought the books, but none of it left me closer to God. None of it left me feeling fulfilled, or none of it really gave me that revelation of like, wow, this is what I'm doing wrong. This is the issue. I kept going to church, fell away for a while. Then I would go to young adult Bible studies. I was doing all this stuff, and I'm just like, damn, I'm still not close to God. Oh, well, you got to just pray to God and be more authentic with God and open up to Him. I did that. Yeah, it helped a little bit. Still just never really felt that fire again. And then one of my friends that's an Orthodox, he'd been talking to me about it on and off for the last 2 years. I was going to go a year ago, but I never went. But then I met a guy in the gym, in the sauna, that's also a Dominican Orthodox like my friend. So I'm like, dang, this is a sign. This is weird, right? Dominicans are Catholic. I met another Dominican Orthodox in the sauna. What are the odds? And that guy goes to the local Orthodox church near my house. So I'm like, all right, I'm just going to go. If I'm not going to go now, I'm probably never going to go. I'm just going to go now. So I went there and I was very confused. It was completely different, no other church I'd been to. I've been to Mass one time, been to Pentecost, been to Baptist, been to Wesleyan, been to Lutheran, been to non-denominational, been to so many churches. But I went here and I was confused, and I went the second time, and then I began to like it more. I like the calmness, the peace. I like, the hymns, the people singing. I don't like the instruments and the bass. At 10 a.m., bro, I don't want to hear a damn rock band. I just don't. I really don't, okay? I like worship music at times, privately. I'm driving down the road, whatever it may be. But I don't like hearing it every single Sunday. I can't even be with my thoughts. It's 10 a.m. I got to sit, watch the strobe lights, watch the fog, listen to the bass, hear people screaming. I'm not into it. But with Orthodoxy, I saw this reverence and this respect in worship. People are like, the Eucharist comes out, communion comes out, whatever you want to call it, and people are bowing to it, and people are respectful, and people are taking this stuff seriously, Same thing with the worship, same thing with the incense, the icons. I'm just like, wow, this is very peaceful. I remember the first time I stepped into I believe it was a Catholic church in Portugal, the first country I'd been to outside the U.S., well, Bahamas when I was 3, but I don't really count that. And I step into this Catholic church and I'm just like, this is beautiful. I literally wanted to cry. And it compelled me to just pray to God right then and there, because I was at an awe with how beautiful this church was. And just kind of the presence I felt in there at that time. I'm just like, wow, I want to cry. This is overwhelming. This is beautiful. And I prayed there for 5 or 10 minutes. And this is when I was straying away from God at that time. This was back in March of 2025. So, yeah, man, that's where I'm at right now, studying Orthodoxy, because Orthodoxy was the church founded by the apostles, right? They still hold true to those oral and written down traditions and beliefs. It's funny, man. These Protestants have the same book. For the most part, right? They for the most part have the same book, but everybody has a different belief and different interpretation. You know, any old pastor, any old man can establish a church at the local strip mall and preach what he thinks is right. And sure, a lot of it may be correct, but you're going to have some heresy, you're going to have some wrong interpretation come into play, and that's just going to have spiritual effects on your relationship with God, your soul. You know, if it's just, it really boggles my mind, man, how there's all these different denominations and they all believe these different things, and I'm a black and white guy. I think there can only be one truth. And like, why would I want to go to some church founded by some guy in the 1600s and the 1800s and the 1900s when I can go to the church that was founded by the apostles that walked with Jesus? And Jesus said, the gates of Hades will not prevail. So why in the heck would I want to go to some church founded in the 1900s by Pentecostals? Why would I want to go to the church founded by John Wesley in the 1800s? Why would I want to go to the Lutheran church founded in the 1500s? And you know, Martin Luther would not have even broken off if he was an Orthodox, but he was a Catholic monk. And yeah, man, Catholics have added a bunch of new stuff to their beliefs. And it's not my job to judge and, oh, they're heretics. I don't agree with all that stuff they've added. And that's why Catholics broke off in what, 1100 or something? 1000, something like that. So there's just all this confusion, man. There's all these people straying away from the faith. There's this new movement going around, this charismaticism, you know, this emotion, people getting their emotions stirred up and mistaking it for the Holy Spirit. And then a lot of Protestants, man, it's like, oh, God saved me when I was about to kill you know, whatever it may be, right? They have these radical experiences where they got saved, right? And that may question a lot of people that haven't had these radical experiences, and they may question their own salvation. Like, man, am I even a Christian? I haven't had these experiences. So for me, man, right now, I'm learning. I'm always going to be learning. But I'm a babe when it comes to orthodoxy and the facts behind that church. There's a lot I do not know. And you may know a lot more. And you may be like, wow, this guy's an idiot. This guy is ignorant. Whatever it may be, right? So have some mercy on me. This is just my own experience, my own testimony, how I see things from my life and what I've lived and where I come from. Because all these Christians, man, they could never answer my questions for the most part. They couldn't. And I saw the denominations and I did not like it. Even before I was Christian. Yeah, my dad would take us to church on the holidays throughout my childhood. But like, I never made a conscious, like, yeah, I believed in the idea of God, but like, did I understand the gospel? Did I understand why Jesus had to come and die? No, I did not. I had no idea. I didn't understand it at all. I just thought that like, hey, God's real. You know, I'm God's favorite. Like, God's not going to send me to hell. You know, God loves me. But I just didn't really understand. I had no knowledge, right? Until I got depressed and I'm just like, there has to be more to life. And I read the Quran. And I thought it was at times good, but very repetitive. And the New Age left me with more questions, you know, talking to psychics, talking to mediums. I would ask them spiritual questions and they helped out a little bit, but it left me feeling even more empty. And by the grace of God, I had a dream happen to me that just kind of lit this fire of Christianity within me. And I'm like, yeah, I believe in Jesus. I believe he is God. You know, he is the Son of God. He's the second person of the Trinity. I believe that, right? But I'm going to be non-denominational. But that only got me to a certain point. And then I'm like at this roadblock again of like, damn, there's still all these, like, I'm just completely ignoring and avoiding this compulsion within me to get like deeper, right? Because I was very frustrated seeing all this division and dogma and doctrine, and I was just like, I don't want anything to do with it. I'm just going to believe in the Trinity, the Holy Trinity. I'm going to believe that Jesus is God. He is the Son of God. He's the second person of the Trinity. He lived on this planet. He was crucified. He died. He gave up his spirit. His blood washes away all my sins. And I can now be back in union with God, right? I'm made righteous now. But that still kind of nagged at me, that whole denomination thing. And by the grace of God, now here I am studying orthodoxy and just feeling that hunger and feeling that fire kind of just build back up to wanting to learn more about God and the early church that I really haven't felt for a year and a half of my life. I'm telling you guys, for the last year of my life, I went from reading my Bible, when I was 19 until about 21, right? So probably for a year and a half, 2 years of my life, I was very motivated, very disciplined, going to church, volunteering at church with the youth, reading my Bible a couple hours a day, just constantly Christian, everything, right? And then for a year, maybe a year and a half, I just completely fell away. That fire went out. I didn't read my Bible really at all. Really at all. It became like a chore. I went from loving it to just like reading a sentence a night and just, okay, I read my Bible. And then eventually I was like, you know what? I'm just going to stop trying and not even read my Bible because I don't feel like it. And then I stopped praying to God entirely. But I felt empty again. I don't think I can function without Jesus in my life because I felt empty again. And that led me to going to church again and just kind of read my Bible here and there. And then I found out about orthodoxy a month ago. And now I feel that fire building back up. I feel like I'm on the right path. I just feel a nudge towards orthodoxy. And I felt that way for a year, but I just kept pushing it off until the emptiness got very strong. And now I have that fire to study, man. And it's truly an amazing thing, when you go through seasons in life and you don't know how you're going to get out of it. And maybe you still have that mustard seed of faith like God talks about, and you pray to God, like, God, this fire is gone. I don't feel like praying to you. I don't feel like reading my Bible. I'm lost, come save me. And maybe you continue to be lost for 6 months, for 12 months, but then something happens or a few things happen that get you back on the right track. And then you feel the fire, man. You feel the fire begin to grow and grow. It's like more wood is being tossed on it. And that's where I'm at right now.